Welcome to episode 294 of the Postal Hub podcast. I'm Ian Kerr. We talk a lot about Amazon's influence in the last mile, but we don't really talk much, or enough perhaps, about Target and Walmart, the two giant US retailers, and what they're doing and what it means for the last mile. So joining me in a moment is Dean McCuber, Managing Partner North America for Crossroads Parcel Consulting. We're going to talk a bit about what the difference is between those two retail giants, a bit about what they're doing in the last mile, and things like that. And naturally, we recorded it just a week before Target made its big announcement about its investment of $100 million in expanding its supply chain and, improving its next day delivery abilities and all of that. So just bear in mind, we recorded it before that big announcement. So coming from just a moment, Dean McCuber from Crossroads Parcel Consulting. Joining me on the line is Dean McCuber. He's Managing Partner North America at Crossroads Parcel Consulting. Dean, welcome back to the Postal Hub. We're going to talk about some e-commerce, some retail, retail behemoths, and what they're doing in e-commerce and delivery. Let's just introduce the companies first of all. We're going to talk about Walmart and Target. And whilst a lot of us outside of the USA know the names, we probably don't understand just the scale of these businesses. Just tell us a little bit about these two retail giants.
First of all, thanks for having me, Ian. Walmart is just amazingly big, over 5,000 stores in North America. Over 3,000 of those are superstores, very, very large stores. They also dominate in medium-sized rural markets like no other big box retailer. So we know that Walmart just dominates here. Something else to keep in mind that drives a lot of their success, they're the largest grocer in the US. And that is just built-in business as customers come in weekly to buy their grocery. And then the customers engage in crossover purchasing. So that's huge for Walmart. And it does give them a base from which to grow their e-commerce business, which they are. Target is smaller. It's still very large, maybe about 2,000 stores, maybe a few more. Their grocery business is a fraction of Walmart's, but they have a different type of customer, more disposable dollars. And so Target's revenue per item would be higher than Walmart's. Also, Target has done an excellent job on BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store, better than Walmart. And they also got into the last mile delivery segment years ago when they bought Shipt. And so between Shipt and the way they positioned BOPIS, Target is doing a great job, a little bit differently than Walmart, but they're obviously the two big box stores, retail big box stores that dominate in the US.
And that domination is, I'm not going to say it's under threat from Amazon, but I'm sure that the people at Walmart and Target are looking very closely at what Amazon is doing. And you could say that's been reflected in some of the strategic moves that those companies have made. You mentioned Shipt just before, and there are marketplace developments there. And of course, Walmart launched its Walmart GoLocal service back in, was it 2021?
About in the past year, yeah.
Yeah. So this sort of indicates that it's not just that Amazon dominates retail in the USA. Amazon might be very strong in e-commerce,
right,
but it doesn't have the footprint of these other retail giants. So could that explain, do you think, why Amazon was so keen to get a deal with Whole Foods and players like that?
It is, because those 5,000 locations are huge for Walmart, especially since micro fulfillment forward stocking distribution is the trend. And so Walmart has 5,000 stores in place where they can distribute product from. Target has a few thousand stores. Target's distribution model is a little bit different. If you want to talk about it, we can. It's pretty boring. But their stores present them with a huge opportunity by being closer to the customer. The question is this, and micro-fulfillment's hot right now. You talk to anybody and everybody's pro micro-fulfillment. Well, actually it costs a little bit more because it's significantly lower volume when you operate a micro-fulfillment center versus a regional fulfillment center. And most of Amazon's centers are very large regional. So the cost of micro-fulfillment is more because there's less scale there. But it also, by putting those packages, storing them closer to the customer, you can improve your transit times. You can support same-day delivery a lot better. So these forward stocking stores that both Walmart and Target have, and Amazon really doesn't have, are a huge advantage for those two giants. Target has done a better job leveraging it, but Walmart has just continued to throw huge resources at their stores and using them as a focus for their e-commerce business. And there's a huge opportunity for more growth in that space. And Amazon has very few retail stores. And also an example would be the Whole Foods solution. It really has not picked up a lot of steam since Amazon purchased Whole Foods. And that's just not clicking for them because it's limited. It's a grocery store. So yeah, these forward stocking retail locations for both Target and Walmart are a huge advantage for Walmart and Target.
Now, there seems to be a lot of talk about clicking, what we call, in the rest of the world, we call click and collect.
Right.
And in the US, it's called BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store. It's all right as far as acronyms go, in my opinion, Dean, BOPIS. It's all right. Anyway, there seems to be a lot of talk about that side of the e-commerce business for Walmart and Target. Although I do know that, it was recently reported that Walmart closed. They had a couple of pure pickup locations.
Yeah.
That they've just recently closed. What do you see as the role of BOPIS in these companies' online offering? And sort of, what's your perception of how consumers receive these, or themselves perceive these e-commerce options?
I think that in general, consumers are embracing it because what we're seeing is click and collect grow more quickly than online last mile delivery, online purchased last mile delivery. So the numbers are telling us that it's a good thing, click and collect, and it continues to grow. And I do think the customers enjoy it more because what we're seeing since COVID is we're seeing consumers return back to the stores. And obviously, e-commerce is important, but these stores are not running away. And so I think the consumer wants both those options, and it's obviously very important to them. From a store standpoint, and it's hard to get statistics on this, but when you have click and collect, you also have crossover purchasing, impulse buying. And I don't know do we have impulse buying online? Of course we do. But there's a part of the retail business that nobody talks about, and that's the fact to look at an item up close and personal and touch it. and I think that drives a higher rate of crossover impulse buying. So that's why click and collect is also very, very important to Target and Walmart.
What about this partnership or whatever it was with FedEx? What was it? The FedEx had some stores in Walmart locations. What was that all about?
I can remember we talked about this maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it just didn't make sense for FedEx to put these stores in the front end of their FedEx office locations in the front end of their large stores. I think it's failed. FedEx hasn't announced that they're not continuing to put them in. I believe that's the case, and I think it's very possible that they'll close many of them, because while customers are going to Walmart to buy groceries, to have an opportunity to get all these ancillary products for their household and things like that, getting in and out of Walmart isn't necessarily really easy. And it just never made sense that people would go to a FedEx office at Walmart to do returns. And obviously, returns is a huge part of the equation here when we're talking about these stores. So it didn't make a lot of sense. And now the issues FedEx is having right now, where they're literally, laying off employees, cutting locations, walking away from a lot of different types of business. I don't think that's going to be a long-term relationship. Also, 3 years ago, Walmart and FedEx were much more closely aligned from a delivery support standpoint than they are today. And so you don't see Walmart using FedEx for delivery as much today. So I think that partnership may be waning, meaning it's not as strong as it was in the past.
Now, you just mentioned returns when you were talking about FedEx, but let's talk about returns from the perspective of these retailers. How does returns shape up for Walmart and for Target compared to, say, a pure play? I'm not going to say Amazon's not really a pure play, I suppose, if you want to throw Whole Foods in there. But anyway, you know what I mean. When it comes to returns and processing returns and accepting returns, do those physical networks give Walmart and Target an advantage?
Yeah, you can go to a big box store to tender a return. Amazon has had a huge positive experience with Kohl's, and having Amazon customers be able to go to Kohl's and easily drop off their packages. I think it's easier to get into a Kohl's because it's smaller than it is a Walmart or a Target. So I think returns at those two stores are important. The customer can engage in crossover impulse buying. So that's important. But realistically, it's still not necessarily easy to go to a Target or a Walmart just to tender a return. I will say this, the number one return solution in the US is the UPS store. And the reason why, there's over 5,000 of them, very well managed with their franchises. So you have local ownership who's on the ground and making sure that they're doing a great job. Amazon is in love with that solution. More shipments are tendered through the UPS store with Amazon than any other location. This past January, I drove by a UPS store and they were standing outside the front door on the sidewalk trying to get in to do their returns. So what does that mean? It's quick and easy. You can get in out of that store real fast. They're designed just for that type of thing. These people that own these stores are specialists. So are the stores still an opportunity for returns? Yes, they are. I think the smaller authorized shipping outlets like a UPS store are probably more easier to use. But there's something else happening here, which is very interesting. Retailers are starting to charge for returns. And they had to. I mean, you can only give it away for so long, right? So as retailers continue to charge more for returns, on the flip side, they won't be charging more if you bring it to them. And so this is an opportunity for Target and Walmart as retailers in general begin to charge more. So the question is, can someone who's not Walmart or Target related go in there and tender a return at these large stores? I think we're moving in that direction. And if you look at what Walmart's doing with their GoLocal program, it's very similar to that because they're going to be delivering third-party customers' business that is not related to Walmart. So I do think that these stores long-term are going to present more returns opportunities as online retailers raise the cost of processing a return shipment and pass that on to the customer.
Now, there are probably people listening to this who are just screaming out the question. You've talked about BOPIS, you've talked about returns, but where do parcel lockers fit into all of this? And Walmart rather famously installed a whole heap of those parcel robots which they then took out of their stores about a year or so ago, if I recall correctly. So generally speaking, in the US, Dean, what are you seeing with regard to usage of parcel lockers in a retail setting or even in a delivery setting, especially with respect to these retailers?
Just last week I was at Best Buy and Home Depot, and they have their private lockers for customers that buy but don't want to walk into the store and talk to a human being. So I really think that's where the future here in the US is, putting lockers specific to that retailer outside in front of their stores so people can easily and quickly get their items and not have to walk into the store. That's really, I think, where the future is. Are we going to see a Walmart and a Target put in carrier agnostic Dropbox networks? No, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think the private use lockbox is specific to a retailer's customers. That's going to continue to grow and be very big here in the US.
So even the use of parcel lockers for returns, is that happening at the moment?
Yeah, you'll be able to use those for returns too. Because if you ever gone to a Walmart or a Home Depot to process a return, it can be very, very difficult. And what are we seeing online? Everything we do today is being automated. So maybe 5 years ago, the consumer wasn't savvy enough to go online and take those extra steps to fulfill the needs of an electronic return or a self-service return. They're not afraid of that anymore. And so I do think you're going to see returns tendered at that location, at those locations now. Today, it's for picking up purchased product. But again, it's something that'll morph into that. Also, Walmart's GoLocal initiative is enormous because they're offering delivery services to smaller retailers, third-party retailers that are unrelated to Walmart. They've developed a last-mile delivery company. And if there was going to be one company, given what they're doing right now with GoLocal, it's very possible in the future that maybe a Walmart will want to put in a carrier agnostic network because they want as many people as possible coming to Walmart. Because if they're going to Walmart to return an Amazon shipment, then maybe they walk into Walmart and do crossover purchasing. So we're not there today, but I do see Walmart being uniquely situated to support carrier agnostic lockers for both pickup and returns. Returns are just, nobody wants to handle a returns, right? It's just ugly business. And the more you can automate it, the better off you are.
Now, just a couple more things before we wrap up, Dean. Walmart has been doing drone delivery, and we're not going to talk about it because drone delivery is stupid. And I don't know, I can't understand why Walmart would even entertain the idea of proceeding with that. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because we've been talking about, what's it called? GoLocal, Walmart's own delivery network. But there's also Walmart Plus in-home, which is where you can get your groceries or your whatevers, your purchases put into your fridge, your kitchen, left at your door, taken to your garage, whatever. This, I think, is an interesting development. It's probably something that's also very well tailored for a US style of suburban home. What are your comments on that, Dina? Is it something that gets a lot of visibility in the US, or is it still perceived as a niche thing? Where do you see that sitting?
It's still a niche opportunity here in the US. I think what would drive non-participation is there are more security concerns here in the US than in Europe or Asia, in my opinion. So I think the consumer base would be more likely or comfortable having a delivery company come into their garage, and that's usually the case, and open a fridge and release the shipment. People are using those services here in the US. Amazon is offering them. I just don't think it's a huge opportunity today because of perceived security issues in general here in the US. And I love the US and I live here, but let's face it, people think Europe and Asia are safer. than the US in many cases. And there's probably a lot going on that we see every day on television news that reinforces that. And I think that drives that. Also, that also drives some smart parcel locker usage here in the US, in my opinion, and why those types of things have not grown. Because in general, you do have consumers having to drive to a retail location. These parcel lockers are outside normally, and complete that transaction in the late afternoon or evening. And that's another reason why I'm thinking smart parcel lockers have not really developed in a strong way here in the US, because of the fact that you have to go there and pick up your packages usually after work. And there might be some security concerns there.
Now, I just mentioned this in-home delivery, which is part of Walmart Plus. And Walmart Plus is the Walmart's, let's call it their response to Prime, shall we say, Dean? And it includes a bit of video streaming, free delivery,
Sure.
No minimum order for free delivery, and a few other things like that. I don't know if it includes drone delivery. If it does, it shouldn't. Anyway, that's by the by. But again, it's interesting to see Walmart responding on the one hand to the Amazon threat by making its delivery options more sophisticated, by having a membership program. But at the same time, it's got this massive retail footprint, which it can also leverage to ensure its continued, dominance?
And I think leverage is the key term there, not just for Walmart, but for Target, for Home Depot, for Best Buy. There's obviously a number of stores. I don't think they've really begun to leverage the local store as a forward stocking delivery solution for sourcing packages nearly as well as they can. And we're going to see a continued focus on that, I think, across all the larger retailers, where they're going to use those stores as forward stocking opportunities. Just one other thing, we really haven't talked about transit times. And transit times, depending on who you talk to, are important or are not important to the e-commerce customer. Amazon, via one-day Prime, they dominate in transit times, just under 2 days per shipment. Whereas I've seen estimates for Walmart and Target between 2 and 4 days. And so Amazon's network is uniquely situated to deliver packages faster than Target or Walmart or some other retailers. I think that's a focus that those stores need to work on. And one of the problems is, remember, these forward stocking fulfillment centers, micro fulfillment centers, they're small. So you have to have the technology and algorithms and predictive analytic in place to put the correct limited amount of items in those smaller forward stocking stores, or in this case, a retail store. And I don't think Target and Walmart are there yet. And also, Amazon has almost 1,000 micro fulfillment centers in place already. And they have over 100 large fulfillment centers that might be up to 1 million square feet. And this allows them, along with their local last mile delivery company, delivery service partners, it really allows them to provide much faster transit times. The question is, how important is that to the customer? I think it is important to the customer, and that's an advantage that Amazon still has today. It's a dominant advantage, and Target and Walmart have got to figure out a way to speed up their transit times.
I think it's going to be interesting to watch in this space, Dean, how players like Walmart, how their market share as a delivery company develops. So what I mean by that is, that you've got the USPS, UPS, and FedEx, and Amazon has come out of the blue to become one of the largest carriers in the USA. Could we see the likes of Walmart, for example, similarly launch themselves into that level of being a carrier? Not expecting you to give me an answer now, Dean.
I hear this all the time. Amazon is not an integrated parcel carrier, last mile delivery company. So I don't think it's fair to say and I'm not picking on you, but I don't think it's correct to say that Amazon is, the largest parcel company in
because they generate their own parcels. It is a different situation. I acknowledge that, but what I'm getting at here is that when we perceive how we perceive the parcel delivery world is changing, and who has always been on the one side of being a retailer is now straddling both worlds, and we've seen the straddling of the physical and the digital in terms of the retail. Anyway, I'm rambling, everybody. I don't really know what I'm trying to say here. I think really this is a sign that I need to wrap this conversation up. Dean, if people want to find out more, well, look, you know what? I'll tell you now. Go to thepostalhub.com, find the episode page relating to this episode, and I'll stick a link to Dean's LinkedIn profile there. So you'll be able to, stalk Dean on LinkedIn or just follow him, which is probably, I don't think the stalk button is there. I think it's just follow Dean on LinkedIn. He posts all kinds of interesting stuff, usually relating to US delivery and retail. Dean McCuber, Managing Partner North America at Crossroads Parcel Consulting. Thank you very much for joining us on the Postal Hub podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Ian, and I'm glad to be back.
Coming soon on the Postal Hub podcast, we've got Mendigas Serpicus from Copenhagen Economics talking about some postal sector research, looking at some of the big trends in what's happening in the European postal sector. I'll be talking to Luke Lloyd from IPC about cross-border e-commerce shopper research. I'll be talking to who else? I'm going to be talking with Daniel Rueda from OpenPricer about some pricing strategies and some other interesting bits and pieces. And Anne Snitko from Omnic will return to talk a bit more about out-of-home delivery and parcel lockers, taking a bit of a different slant on it this time. So lots of interesting stuff coming up on the Postal Hub podcast. Don't miss a single episode. Make sure you subscribe to the email newsletter. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast in your favourite podcast platform. Please do subscribe to the Daily Delivery Digest while you're over there at thepostalhub.com. What else? I can tell you anything at this point because you're listening to this at double speed and it makes no sense. I'm joking. But if you want to email me about anything at all, my email address is ian@thepostalhub.com. I'm Ian Kerr. Thanks for listening in. And I look forward to your company next time on the Postal Hub podcast.